Rev up your engines!
Well, you think it's bad here? The government giving money in the United States to corporations? Well, Canadian industry minister was defending a $13.8 billion tax subsidy the Canadians are going to give to Volkswagen for making electric cars and batteries. Francois Philippe Champagne, I guess the Champagne should say it all, he says, no, that's a good thing. You taxpayers in Canada, you can give $19 billion in breaks to Volkswagen. What the heck? He says plans for Volkswagen to build its first battery plant in Canada, a very good investment. That's what he says. Yeah, it certainly is for Volkswagen. Now, if you know anything about Canada, they have taxes up the wazoo, right? So basically, this is yet another tax on you regular Canadians, right? They're giving a tax break to the corporation, but they're not giving you any tax breaks, right? I got friends living in Toronto. They pay so much tax, it's unbelievable. I had a friend who ran a bar on Yonge Street in Toronto. You know what he said? He quit doing it after years because he said, I feel like I'm just working to pay tax to the government of Ontario, and I'm not making anything for myself. And here's a hilarious thing. The contract that the Canadians just inked includes, and I quote, an initial capital investment of $700 million, and then up to $13 billion in ongoing production subsidies. They're giving them a bunch of money, and then they're giving them subsidies, which is the same as giving them money. Then they don't have to pay tax on the stuff. I mean, you poor Canadians, you're paying tax just like we are in the United States, only double or triple what we pay, but then your government is giving all this money to a German corporation. What do they say? Politics makes strange bedfellows? Well, that's certainly true here. Damien says, I recently purchased a nice 99 Buick Regal from an elderly person with 100,000 miles. 3800 V6. What are your thoughts on this car? Is it worth keeping? It should be. Those 3800s are one of the best engines ever made. Back in the day, I had customers that had those things. If you drove like a maniac, you could burn out the tranny. I had a guy, he burned out his in 25,000 miles, broke all the spot welds on a torque converter and a transmission. But you bought it from an elderly person. If it shifts good now, you might as well keep it. Those things can last a really long time if they've been taken care of and not beaten. They're not made for jackrabbit stopping, peeling out. They will, but then the transmissions will break. So probably good cars. If it shifts good now, it should be. Legend says, Scotty, do SUVs have more of a bumpy ride? My '07 Ridgeline has a much rougher ride than my Honda Accord. Yeah, they're both Honda, but you know, let's face it, the Ridgeline is the little pickup truck. They're going to ride rougher, you know? That's just how they are. They're higher up in the air. You're going to get a rougher ride. The Accords are nice, sporty little sedans for driving around, zippy. The SUVs they're going to have a bumpier ride. That's just how those things are. People like them because they can fit all kinds of stuff in them, but you're going to get a somewhat rougher ride. Unless you go to, giant thing like a Cadillac Escalade or something with special suspension that's all run by computers, but then they break and cost a fortune to fix. So you're better off with the Honda that rides a little rougher, basically. Haji says, Scotty, if I get a new pair of rear tires, do they need to be rebalanced? All right, well, anytime you buy tires, you should get them balanced. They don't make tires better than they used to if you buy good quality tires. You buy those cheap ones made in China, they may be junk, and that's all bets are off. But, you get Goodyear, Michelin. When you buy the tire, they usually have a red dot. The red dot's supposed to go where the valve stem is, and then you get them balanced to make sure they're perfectly balanced. They're so generally well built today, a lot of times they don't need much balancing, and here's the thing. If you got an out-of-balance tire in the front, even if it's off a little, your steering wheel could shake a little or pull. But if you put them in the back, a lot of times you won't feel it at all. If they're charging you extra to balance them, hey, say, just put them on. And if it doesn't shake, don't waste your money on balancing them. Because most of them are pretty close to begin with. I just said Scotty is driving at high speeds on a highway bad for my engine. Well, actually, driving on a highway is best for your engine because you're not shifting gears. You got all that wind cooling the engine going through the radiator, so it won't overheat. It's not shifting gears. You're at a certain speed. And it's actually better for a car. Now, don't become a maniac, I mean, if the speed limit is 75 and you're going 75, fine. Don't be doing 175. That's bad for your engine. It's going to wear it out from going as fast as it possibly can. But regular high-speed driving is excellent for a car. Back in the day, we used to call it an Italian tune-up. We get like a little old lady's car who never went over 30 and take it out on the highway for an hour, get it going at a nice highway speed. You come back, it actually ran better because it blew a lot of the carbon out of the engine. That's why it was called an Italian tune-up, right? Maybe it's not politically correct. Now, I don't care. As long as you're not going super high I know, it's fine for your engine to be going at highway speeds. Cleans all the crud out of it. Nikita says, I replaced the power steering pump on my car, but it's still whiny. What should I do? Make sure you got a good power steering pump. Most of them are remanufactured. A lot of remanufactured pumps are crap. They will whine, and a lot of places will say, no, we guarantee that it works. Is it working? Yeah, it's steering, but it whines. They'll say, we don't guarantee it doesn't make any noises, right? If you get a brand new pump, you don't have to worry about that. Because, let's say you get a brand new pump, and it's still whining. Well, then you have another problem. And in general is either your high side pressure hose is somewhat collapsed, and the pump has to pump higher pressure to get out, so it whines. Or you have a problem in your power steering rack. The power steering pump sends fluid to the rack that gives you the power boost. If the rack is somewhat clogged inside, the pump will whine even if it's a good new pump because it's got all that restriction in it. You can flush it out. I got a video how to fix whiny power steering. Watch that. Try the flush. Maybe the flush will fix it. If not, and you got a remanufactured pump, odds are it's just a crappy reman. Lionel Rivera says, Scotty, have you seen the reviews of the new Dodge Hornet? Some of them say the check engine light comes on in the middle of the review. Dodge says it's just a prototype. Okay, I wouldn't touch one of those things. They call it a Dodge Hornet, right? I believe it's a rebadged Alfa Romeo. And if you know anything about Italian cars, Alfa Romeos, they're sporty, zippy. They are the biggest rolling piles of crap when it comes to breaking down over time. People used to laugh about Fiat. And they say, fix it again, Tony. Well, Alfa Romeo is even worse. Those things are rich boys' toys. They fall apart in front of your very eyes. They pulled out of the United States decades ago. And then when Fiat bought Chrysler, since Fiat owns Alfa Romeo, they tried to import them in the United States, but their sales are dismal because Americans were burnt once. Most Americans realize, hey, stay away from that Italian crap. It's just garbage. I would not buy one of those things. Takesha Williams says, does the 2023 Lexus RX 350h need premium fuel? You can run it on premium fuel and you'll have more horsepower. You can run on regular fuel, it'll run perfectly fine. You just lose a tiny amount of horsepower. And since it's a hybrid and it's got electric boost motor, you probably won't even notice it. I've had customers buy previous generations of those hybrids and they ran them on regular. They didn't care. You know, only the absolute fanatic who wants the most horsepower possible will put the high test gas in, which costs $1 something a gallon more. So you're basically throwing your money away unless you're driving on a racetrack or something. And it's not a race car anyways. Midmont said, Scotty, does AT205 reseal help? And barely weeping power steering hoses are just on the seals. It works best on the seals. It rejuvenates the rubber. But I have seen them if they're just weepy. It can stop those too if they're just weepy. I'm not talking about rubber hose and it's dripping down. No, just kind of weep around, try it, then wipe it off, drive about 300 miles, then wipe it off again. You might find that it's slowed it down quite a bit. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just a polymer. World Asgard says, Scott, I got 2010 Corolla. It starts fine, but the shocks and struts are one to deal. It's $4,000 to fix it. Are they ripping me off? Well, they certainly are, you know. That's a 2010 Corolla. Old enough, they sold, 40, 50 million Corollas. There's aftermarket parts like KYB that are perfectly fine. I could buy the parts for that, for like good ones, $400 for everything. And yeah, it might take me 3-4 hours to put them all on, but I mean, that's just ridiculous. Go someplace else. You don't want to go to the dealer to get suspension work done. They just overcharge. That's just total insanity. Kodiak says, is it normal for a BMW Turbo V8 to smoke when I install an aftermarket exhaust? Here's the thing. BMW V8s are notorious for burning oil because bad valve seals don't burn oil. That has nothing to do with the exhaust. Let's say your car wasn't smoking before you put the exhaust in, but it is now. That's just the exhaust that you bought has some kind of coating on it to keep it from rusting when it sits. Because if you're spending good money for an exhaust system, you buy it and it's all rusty when you buy it, you're going to say, what a piece of crap, right? So they coat them a lot of times. And the coating will smoke. So drive it around for a month or two. If it stops smoking, it was just the coating wearing off. If it continues to smoke out of the exhaust pipe itself, then your V8's burning oil. But that's typical for BMW V8s. They're notorious for eating up oil. Bad valve seals in the things. Brandy says, Scotty, what do you think of the Toyota Crown? Well, the old ones were V12 sold in Japan only, nice luxury cars, but of course you can't get parts for them in the United States. Toyota's always playing with names. They build good cars, but they got a little bit to learn about. Stop getting rid of names and then bringing them back and all this blah, blah, blah. People want cars that work good and look good, and if you keep making them there, stop playing with the names. It doesn't make any sense. These days, let's face the facts. Look at the cars down the road. They all all look the same anyways. You see a Mercedes, you see a Lexus, you see a Toyota, you see a Honda, you see a Kia. From the back, when they go by it, they pretty much all look the same anyway. So, as they say, what's in a name? In this case, practically nothing is in a name. Dank Bear says, Scotty never answers my questions. Well, here I am. You got to ask a question for me to answer it. I mean, the more specific, the better. If you got a certain thing with a certain problem, spell it all out so I can read it, answer it, so everybody in the world can share all their car information. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.